One of the biggest calls I get is for people that are looking to buy and sell houses here on their short-term vacation rentals here in Central Florida. We have over 70 million people that visit us from all over the world every single year for Disney and Universal and all the cool stuff that we have going on here in Orlando. We're going to dive into the short-term property management and vacation home ownership here in Central Florida. I'm going to take you through some of the different neighborhoods. We'll check out a couple different properties that I have listed and talk to you about the ins and outs of owning a second house here in Orlando. All right, so it's a little gloomy out today. So as we're going through, we're talking about location. I'll make sure I drop in some of the footage from other listings that we had through some of these neighborhoods. So you'll see some of those crisp pool shots. But let's go inside and talk a little bit about choosing the right location. One of the first things you want to consider when you're looking at a vacation home is location. And there's a lot of things that go into that. The number one thing is really going to be, can you rent it out while you're there or not? Can you rent it out by the night, or do you have to rent it out by the year? And that's something that, as a lot of buyers are calling me, that's the first step that we're gonna look at. So if you're gonna do a short-term rental, the other thing with location you're gonna wanna decide is how close are you to the parks? Because proximity to parks means so much. And the third thing I would say about location is really gonna be the amenities in the neighborhood. Having all of those things together, whether you're looking at can you do short-term rental, the proximity to the parks, and the neighborhood amenities are gonna help you start narrowing down the idea, is this gonna be the house for you or not? All right, so while we're wrapping up location, let's spin around Orlando and go through some of the more popular short-term rental communities and really dive in deep on some of the things that you should be considering if you're looking to buy or sell a second home in Orlando. One of the really popular neighborhoods here in Central Florida is Champions Gate, which is where we're at right now. We're actually passing the Oasis Clubhouse, which is where the short-term rental side is allowed to hang out and use those amenities. They've got a lazy river and some amazing stuff that we're going to show you here in a minute. But Champions Gate's not all short-term rental allowed. You've got the Country Club side, which is all long-term. So the Country Club actually does not share the same amenity center. They have their own setup, so they don't have to share sort of with the hotel vibe, if you will, of the short-term side. So it's really cool if you want the amenities of the golf neighborhood, but you want to have sort of your own private amenity as the long-term side of the Country Club, you have that as well. All right, so the next neighborhood we're going to go check out is Reunion. And I think this is a good place to pause that while we're talking about location, we should also be talking about fees that are associated with some of these different neighborhoods. Because while Reunion has an amazing amount of amenities with the golf courses and the 10 pools and the water park and all the really cool stuff, there's a lot of fees associated with that as well. And so you see a list price online and it looks really attractive, but then you have to look at everything that's really included. So let's talk a little bit about that. So like I mentioned, there's a ton of amenities here in Reunion. There's 10 pools, there's the main building with the restaurants, there's the water park, there's 3 golf courses. So it's an amazing neighborhood, it's gated, it's in a great proximity to Disney. But there's things to pay attention to with the different fees. So you've got the HOA fee, then if you're in a condo, you've got a condo fee on top of that. And then on top of that, you've got a social membership to use everything outside of what's not your primary building or your primary area within Reunion, meaning that if you want access to all of the pools and all of the amenities, then you need to pay for the social membership. So just these little things in each one of these neighborhoods are sort of the, not gotchas, but they really are something to pay attention to in terms of a cash flow perspective, especially if you're trying to zero base your vacation home. So while we're heading over to the next neighborhood, which is Windsor Hills, I'm going to talk a little bit about management fees, because that's probably the biggest cost outside of your mortgage and your taxes that you're going to have is going to be these management fees. Now, there's some companies that'll allow you to do your own bookings, and they'll handle all of the cleaning and the back end stuff for as low as like 10 or 15%. But majority of the property management companies out there are going to charge anywhere between 25 and 30, all the way up to 50% of your gross bookings. And they're going to take that off the top. And so you have to look at when you're doing your budget on if you're going to get a mortgage and you're paying your taxes and your HOA fees and your social memberships, then you're also paying a manager. What's going to be left is going to be potentially nothing. And so it's really something to pay attention to. And when you're trying to decide if you're doing this for an investment or you want to do this as just something to offset your second home. Let's talk about how to maximize your nightly rental if you are going to rent out your vacation home here in Orlando. So one of the biggest things through this is going to be taking your garage and converting it maybe into a game room. These guys really went over the top. And think about it, somebody looking on VRBO or Airbnb, or they're working with your rental management company, and they want to have a lot of fun at the house. Well, something like this where you've got TVs and video game consoles are something that's going to draw somebody in, and it's going to help your occupancy rate and your nightly booking rate. So sometimes we see just a regular floor with a ping pong table. These guys did a really great job. So maybe something to invest in when you're running your numbers. There's a couple other things that you can do to maximize your return, like doing other upgrades throughout the house. If you're buying maybe a little bit older of a house, swapping out those Formica countertops into hard surface quartz or granite is going to be a big one. Or maybe redoing the carpet and just kind of making it feel a little bit more high-end is something that you can consider. The last thing to think about when maximizing your nightly rental really goes all the way back to location, and that's going to be the view of your property. So it's really, what is it looking at? Are you looking into another property? Are you looking at a parking lot? All of these things should be thought about like a business owner or maybe like a hotel. When you go online and you're looking at those hotel nightly rates, a lot of them charge because of the view. Are you looking at a lake or a pond, that kind of thing. So there's a lot of things to consider if you're thinking about buying a vacation house or a short-term rental here in Central Florida. So if you have questions or you're thinking about buying or selling a house here, make sure you reach out. My number is 407-717-0197 or shoot me an email at ken@positgroup.com. We'll see you guys in the next video.